morning. A very warm welcome from Berlin. Welcome to We Emerge Week. My name is Florian Hoffmann.
And I'm Katherin Kirschenmann, and we're the founders of the Do School. Here at the Do School, we empower people and companies to lead in a purposeful economy. And this year has shown us that the need for transformation is more pressing than ever before. And for this reason, we're so excited to take you through We Emerge Week, a unique global gathering to galvanize action. We have brought together leaders from around the world in diverse action roundtables, and we're looking forward to welcoming you and many other guests throughout the week. And we're very excited to have you here this morning with us in our opening plenary, joining from Zoom, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live.
So, why We Emerge Week? Like a prism, the coronavirus crisis and the resulting economic and societal crisis have shown us, or are showing us, the big challenges we're facing all together. The situation is causing tremendous suffering. It's disrupted almost every business. It's put millions of people out of jobs, and it heightens existing inequalities. The lockdown, the crisis, is giving us pause. But over the last month, slowly and surely, we started talking about how do we build back, and how do we build back better? How do we address inefficiencies in our economies? How do we reinvent our societies? And how do we think about tackling the climate emergency we're all in? We started talking about the new normal. We coped, we pivoted, and we tried to innovate.
So in March already, we launched the We Emerge campaign and initiative, and we spoke with CEOs, thought leaders, social entrepreneurs around the world to engage with them and to ask them how they're pivoting, how they're coping, and how the COVID crisis is impacting their businesses and their work. And there's a couple of things that everybody pretty much talked about. So first of all, it was all about the need to pivot, to create new digital business models overnight. The other side to that was obviously that everybody had to take their workforce into a completely new setup. New skills were needed. How to train people for remote leadership, increase digital skills, and all that whilst a crisis was hitting the markets. So thirdly, what they talked about a lot was actually a renewed sense to build empathy and psychological safety to help everybody cope. And they also spoke a lot about the fact that they realized even more than before that we're in this together. And I don't just mean this health and economic crisis, but also our climate crisis. So this actually led to the fact that especially companies felt a heightened sense to innovate and to need to address climate issues alongside the other factors. So we asked them what concrete actions followed these thoughts and these considerations. And three things stood out. So first of all, of course, everybody, all of us, have to think about the business model, manage cost, look into cash flow, and ensure that we're running stable businesses. But then right after that, there was the need and the increased sense to innovate and to use that innovation not only to adjust the own business model, but also to innovate for a better future, working towards the Sustainable Development Goals and carbon neutrality first and foremost. And then also, as we're talking about the new normal, to really transform the way we work, not only short-term in a remote setting, but also thinking long-term, what might our future of work look like when we work in hybrid models, being online, being offline, meeting in different settings, and making that a regular, successful way to work together efficiently, but also keep culture strong.
So everything that we just said might sound familiar to you. We've been at this for a couple of months now. And so what are the goals for We Emerge Week? Very simply, we want to actually celebrate you and all of us for the tireless efforts that we're all undertaking to trying to actually move forward. We Emerge Week aims to celebrate all we do, and it offers also a bit of renewed energy for some difficult months ahead. For this, we bring together leaders, as Katherin said, from across the globe to share solutions, to look into what makes a difference, what really works, what creates impact. So there's 4 goals that we very specifically see for We Emerge Week. Firstly, we want to engage you with incredibly diverse viewpoints on the problems and opportunities that you feel most passionate about. Secondly, we want to share concrete solutions and discuss what impact they can actually achieve. We want to share what works, and we want to see how we can adopt it in other places. Thirdly, we want to get a joint understanding of what needs to come next. What should we all be doing from here on forward in the next couple of months in particular? And last but not least, We Emerge Week is about getting together, gaining courage and optimism for the months and years ahead.
So what's actually going to happen during We Emerge Week? We have over 40 roundtables planned throughout the week, as well as these open morning plenaries. Many of you probably already signed up for a number of the roundtables that are most interesting for you. But if you haven't, there are just a few spots left on some of them. So definitely make sure to be fast to grab some of those last places. And today, we wanted to start into the week with one topic that we feel is really important, which is around the question, which skills and mindsets we actually all need to emerge from this crisis stronger and better. We have a number of roundtables around this topic throughout the day, ranging from how we can build resilient innovators and entrepreneurs, up to what the future of work will look like, into the question of how an inclusive educational system actually needs to look like to respond to the crisis. So we're so excited to really get started, and I think there couldn't be a better way than talking to Dr. Jane Goodall, DBE, founder of the Jane Goodall Institute and UN Messenger of Peace. So let's take it away.
Dear Jane, thank you so much for being with us at We Emerge Week, and I really appreciate your time tremendously. And you're such a role model for all of us who are working in this big social innovation space. What I'd love to learn from you more about is you've seen so many crises in your lifetime. What do you think we now need to do to emerge stronger from this health, economic, environmental crisis? How do we get out of this? And how do we get out of it better?
Well, I think, first of all, people need to understand that in many, many ways, we brought this on ourselves because this COVID-19 is one of the zoonotic diseases, one of those where a virus or other pathogen jumps from an animal to a person. And we've been creating the situation which is ideal for a pathogen to do just that. First of all, we've disrespected the environment. You destroy a forest, and animals are pushed in closer contact with people. They go into cities, they search for food. People go into their habitat, they shoot them, kill them, eat them. And all of this is providing opportunities for these pathogens to jump. And then on top of that, we traffic them. And we send them from regions or even from around the world to the wildlife markets of Asia, the bushmeat markets of Africa, the various markets in South America, animals in cruel conditions, stressed, crowded, perfect condition for the seller or the buyer to be contaminated. Some of them are sold to be eaten, killed on the spot. Some of them are sold as exotic pets, usually illegally. And so we must understand that we must come out of this pandemic with a different respect for nature, with a different respect for animals, and stop treating them as though they're commodities for us to use as we wish. So if we just come out of the pandemic thinking in those lines, that will make us better people and better stewards of the planet for the future.
So that means if I, as our everyday people, if we think about respect and treating animals and the environment differently, that's for you a pathway to actually also a different behavior. Is there something else that I can change tomorrow or we can do actually to support how we treat the planet?
Yes, indeed. There's a lot that everybody can do as an individual. And I think, more and more people understand the crisis we're facing, because it's the same disrespect of the environment that's led to climate change, which is looming as a much greater threat than a pandemic. We'll get through the pandemic and then we'll just be forcing ourselves, the climate crisis will force itself upon us with renewed urgency. But so when we make a choice each day, what do we eat? Where did it come from? Did it harm the environment in its production? Was it cruel to animals, like the terrible factory farms? Is it cheap because of child slave labor? Those kind of questions. And when it comes to the factory farms, they're like concentration camps for animals. Billions and billions of cows and pigs, horses, chickens, goats, turkeys, you name it. All of them need to be fed. To feed them, to grow the grain, environments are destroyed, particularly forests with their rich soil. At least it's rich for a little while. And a lot of fossil fuel is used to get the grain to grow the grain, to get the grain to the animals to abattoir, and the meat to the table. Water becoming increasingly scarce, especially as climate change bites in some parts of the world. Lots of water is used to change animal to vegetable protein. And health-wise, these animals all have to be fed on antibiotics, which builds up resistance in the bacteria, and we get superbugs. And one important thing that I forgot, during digestion, these animals, like all mammals, create methane gas. And that is one of the most virulent greenhouse gases, along with carbon dioxide, of course, from our fossil fuels. So these factory farms also provide wonderful opportunities for pathogens to jump over to people. And many new diseases have in fact come from these terrible crowded factory farms. So just by choosing what we buy, what we wear, what we eat, and also how we interact with the environment, the animals, and people too, this is something we all can do, some of us more than others, depending on our place in society.
Thank you so much. And I think, as you said, this is something that all of us can take a piece from. I would love to hear one more answer on what would you advise business leaders, governmental leaders that right now are obviously still in this balancing act of thinking about the pandemic, thinking about climate change, but then also thinking about the economy. And where it's often sort of, I hear at the moment, an either or conversation. And all of us know that we need to make it an and conversation. What would be your advice of what a business leader, a government leader should do right now?
Well, you can't really give a clean answer to that. Businesses, obviously, in this new green economy that we want to create, we must stop always putting unlimited economic development ahead of protecting the environment for the future, because it just doesn't make sense that you can have this unlimited economic development globally on a planet with finite natural resources. Already in some areas, those resources are being used up faster than nature can replenish them. So businesses have to find ways of being strong and understanding that more and more people want to buy products that have been made in an ethically responsible way. And this is how it all ties in together, because we as people can have a major impact on businesses by refusing to buy products that are made in a way we consider unethical. And then, of course, the businesses and governments are very often tied together, because very often it's the big corporations that support the election campaigns of different politicians. And there's a lot of corruption that goes on. So it's a great big tangled web. And in some countries, it will be much easier for businesses, especially small businesses, to change. But in other countries, with a different kind of government in power, it's going to be very, very difficult. So that there isn't an easy answer. The solution is clear, but how we reach that solution, how do we define a different, what's a different definition of a successful life? At the moment, people tend to think of acquiring money and power, more and more stuff. But actually, what is a successful life? It's having enough. It's being able to do what you desperately want to do. And it's okay to want to raise lots of money if you're using the money to make the world a better place. And so, you know, in all these ways, it's all a tangled web, and the answer will be different in different countries. So it's fine to say, this is what we need, this new green economy, this new definition of success. But how to get there? I'm not the person to answer that.
Jane, thank you so much for your thoughts. And I know I've heard you speak about that before, that you do have hope about the future, and Roots and Shoots and the amazing work that the JGI institutes around the world are doing is part of that. How can people support Roots and Shoots or the JGI effort? What right now do you consider the best way to get involved?
Well, the best way to get it, I mean, my biggest effort right now is developing this Roots and Shoots program around the world, because it differs from most other youth organizations, because it involves young people making their own choices. And between them in a group, they must choose 3 projects, one to help people, one to help animals, one to help the environment, or one big project that encompasses all. And so the young people, because they get to choose, they're very passionate, and they roll up their sleeves and they get to work. It's all about action. Roots and Shoots is about action. And at the same time, with its main message, every individual makes an impact every day, and we can choose what sort of impact to make. It's helping to break down the barriers that we build between people of different nations, cultures, religions, different languages, and help young people realize that much more important than the color of our skin, the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the gods we worship, is the fact we're one human family. And so if people want to get involved, and my goal, you know, I always believe if you shoot for the stars, you might reach the moon. If you aim for the moon, you might reach the top of Everest. But so I aim for the stars. So my goal is to get as many young people as possible from kindergarten through university involved in this program, or one like it, till we get a critical mass, a tipping point of young people who understand, yeah, we need money to live, but it goes wrong when we live for money, when we live for power, when we live to accumulate wealth. So that's my goal, and people can get involved. They can look up rootsandshoots.org or janegoodall.org, which is the overall arching JGI websites. And on there will be links to the local chapters, Roots and Shoots groups, and so on. Because we've got JGIs in 24 countries, Roots and Shoots in 87.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
But not enough yet. We need more. So anybody who knows young people in faraway countries, you know, just linking people together is a really important thing to do.
Jane, thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate you taking a moment to share this with us.
And you know, one thing that really struck me from listening to Jane there was actually her very first sentence when she said, "We brought this upon ourselves." But that also means we can get out of this collectively together, and every single one of us needs to take action. And Jane said, aim for the stars. I think that's the spirit that we need right now to get out from where we are right now, to the solution that she said is actually clear. And for that, it needs action. And for action, it might need certain skills and mindsets. And that's why in true Do School spirit, we actually want to give you a tool, a starting point, something you can use right away to think about your mindsets and to work through some changes that you might consider important. And so I'm super excited to hand over to Ruben Steinfeld, who is heading our programs here at the Do School, and he'll lead you through our tool today.
Thank you so much, Katherin, and good morning to everybody watching. I'm still really energized and inspired just from listening to Jane again this morning. What an amazing way to start the day. And as Katherin said, we're all about action, right? And making things happen, getting into doing. And one of the things that's clear right now, more than ever before, probably, is that as individuals, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, and as organizations, we have to be really effective at two different speeds or at two different levels. We have to take decisive action now to react to the crisis, and we have to take well thought out, creative, innovative, long-term decisions to build for a better future. And our practice with entrepreneurs and leaders over the years has really shown us that time and time again, a core ingredient in order to do this, both as individuals and as teams, is the ability to successfully embrace different mindsets. And mindsets for us aren't just an abstract concept, but a very concrete tool to be used daily within your teams or as individuals. So let me tell you very briefly what we mean when we talk about mindsets, and then how you can use them for yourself and your team in a little exercise. So if you like, have some pen and paper ready, we'll need it in a minute. So first, why mindsets? On the one hand, we know that the only constant is change, and that this change nowadays means that we can't go through life with just one set of skills. We won't survive working life with that. It also means that change is where we're best at still as humans. It's where we add most value and where we have the biggest role in determining the success of our enterprises. They're all connected to change, whether it's creativity, communication, decision-making, leading people. This is for a while where we'll have the edge over machines. But in addition to that, we also think that mindsets, plural, is the right word to describe where the focus should be with this. Mindsets for us are mental frameworks that shape how we interpret situations, understand relationships, and crucially also how we prime ourselves in reacting to those situations. We don't think that there's a single right mindset that's always right or that's always correct, but rather we think that there are different mindsets that we need to employ deliberately and use them as mental shortcuts for ourselves and in working together with our teams to describe sets of related attitudes, behaviors, and ways of thinking. So why different mindsets? Why not just one? Well, let's go through a very simple thinking exercise, something that surely lots of people have thought about over the last few weeks and months and developed great solutions. Let's say you want to or have to reinvent the experience of just finding a table when you go to a restaurant. You need to make it COVID safe and user-friendly. So the whole experience from finding a table, sitting down, nowadays registering your contact details, ordering and paying, all of that ideally contactlessly, you need to reinvent. So you start with having to understand quite a complex system. You need to understand rules and regulations, physical spaces, technical limitations, all these sorts of things. And then you need to start thinking about your users. You really have to build empathy. You need to understand what customers want. You have to understand that they really want to feel careless, perhaps, when they go to a restaurant, or carefree. They want to just enjoy themselves. At the same time, they really want to feel safe. So you need to understand and take into account all these emotional aspects to the problem that you're trying to solve. And as you've built this understanding of a complex system of lots of emotions involved, you then have to somehow free yourself to be creative enough to have the space to create a light bulb moment, a spark of inspiration that triggers a really, really great idea that gets you excited about and that you want to follow through. And once you've reached that point, of course, then you have to start testing it. You have to start prototyping it. You have to talk to experts, and you have to try quite hard to make sure that it really is the best one. And if necessary, kill your darling. So just in this quick run through of a thought experiment of trying to create a new solution and bringing it to action, we see that there are many different stages on that journey, and they require you to be in different modes of thinking. And we call these modes mindsets. And let's talk today about 3 mindsets that we think are particularly important to operate successfully on these 2 levels that we mentioned on the outset, dealing with the crisis and building for a better future. Let's start with building for a better future. We think it's really important, especially in a time of heightened crisis, heightened alert, where we're all in a bit of a fight or flight stage, to make space and adopt what we call a child's mindset. The more we are experts in the field, the more we also tend to get stuck in the complexities of a given problem. So going back to basics, fundamental questions can help us challenge our implicit assumptions and to generate a fresh look. It helps us to put us into a state of exploration and focusing on questions rather than immediately jumping to conclusions and answers. As adults, as professionals, knowing that there's a problem and not immediately having the answer or the solution can be quite difficult, especially in large organizations when we're all being paid to have answers rather than questions for the most part. But jumping to conclusions doesn't lead us to the best or the most sustainable answers. So going back into what we call a child's mindset of exploration, of creativity, of openness, creating the space for that, aligning that this is what we're now allowed to do, is one important step. But contrasting with the child's mindset, for instance, is what we call the urgency mindset. It's the mindset that helps us come to a point of deciding quickly and decisively what course of action to take, which of 2 options to pick. Especially important, of course, now in a time of crisis where we have to take a lot of sometimes very far-reaching decisions within a short amount of time. But even after long explorations and deliberations, we know that we're never going to have all the information that we might want or need to make a perfect decision. But if we want to get to action, if we want to create impact, employing an urgency mindset to help us move to a decision and move forward is crucial in generating action. And lastly, I want to highlight today the abundance mindset. You could call this our glass completely full approach. It's not just about optimism, though that plays a part, but it's about how do we view the world around us? Do we view it as in terms of lack, or do we view it in terms of abundance of resources in order to achieve our goal? Most of the time in our days, we spend too much time defining in painstaking details what we lack, right? Often linking this to thoughts of if only I could, or if only we had. And we don't take enough time to consciously make ourselves aware of the wealth of resources, connections, networks, and opportunities that surround us. So from time to time, for ourselves or in our teams, it's really worthwhile when trying to solve a problem or overcome an obstacle to dedicate 30 minutes together to create a long list of everything that could be brought to help with something, and all the networks that we could tap into to support us in moving forward. So deliberately moving into abundance mindset rather than just looking at scarcity in order to create solutions. Before moving to the exercise, 2 short things that I hope you'll take away. The one is to navigate this crisis and build a successful future. It will take a lot of different mindsets and sometimes even contradictory ones. On an individual level, some of them will come easier and some of them will come harder. The key is not to sort of avoid the ones that come harder to us or just be in the ones that we're more comfortable with, but to embrace the cognitive stretch that comes with being in different mindsets, because we know that that makes us more effective in doing and creating impact. The second point is think consciously about those different mindsets and make them an explicit point of communication within your team. One of the places where we see in our work that most time gets lost, most energy gets wasted, is when people within the same team are not aligned on what kind of mindset they should together employ in order to move forward. As you can imagine, somebody who wants to do a brainstorming in a child's mindset, meeting colleagues who are in an urgency mindset to make decisions, won't move forward effectively and definitely not creatively together. So think about how to make these explicit within your team, and think about how can you as a team move into different mindsets more effectively together, especially the ones that come hard to you. Now, moving into our little exercise to start this day for you, I would like you to take a moment and think about what are the 3 things over the next month that you want to accomplish, that you know will really make a difference, that will really create impact if you achieve them successfully. And as you keep those 3 priorities of yours, these 3 goals in mind, I'll briefly share with you all the different mindsets that we look at the Do School. And I ask you to simply take note of the ones that you think might be most helpful in achieving your 3 priorities. The first is purposeful mindset, which connects your passion to your purpose in order to create long-term impact. We talked about the child's mindset that helps you explore questions and problems openly and creatively. The lateral mindset is a mindset that allows you to look left and right of your problem to find inspiration for solutions. The abundance mindset helps you see the world full of opportunities and resources. Big picture mindset allows you to zoom out when you've gone down into the nitty-gritty of a problem and need to realign yourself. Empathy mindset, we mentioned briefly, allows you to connect to your users, to the people that you want to solve problems for. The collaboration mindset allows you to let go of ego and ownership and truly co-create solutions. Impact mindset helps you think about not the next action that you want to take, but the impact that you want to create in the long term. The uncertainty mindset helps you deal effectively with not knowing answers and engage in the process of searching. The urgency mindset, as we said, helps you make decisions. The resilience mindset helps you get unstuck. And the scientist mindset is the one that helps you ask the tough questions of the ideas that you like the most in order to move forward. Now, this was a very quick run through 12 mindsets, but check for yourself which ones sound like the ones that will most help you achieve the 3 priorities that you have in front of you for the next month. And then consider and underline which one of those comes easy to you. So which one's going to be a great support, which ones are going to be perhaps important for you, but might be harder to get into. And you give them a little explanation mark next to it. So take stock of the mindsets that you need, but also of the ones that come easy to you and the ones that you might have a harder time getting into. And especially looking at the ones that are a bit harder to get into, how can you make it easier? How can you reduce the cognitive effort to get into a mindset that you find a little bit harder? And perhaps the answer there is a who. So who do you know who's good at that mindset or can help you get into that mindset? And lastly, think about the teams that you work in. And again, consider the list of your mindsets and think about which ones are hard to get into as a team. Where do you have a tough time taking enough time for them or aligning on them? And think about concrete ways of how you can improve as a team in getting into all the mindsets that are important for you together. Let me leave you with one thought before handing back to Katherin. I think we can all agree, and it came out, I think, as well from Jane's talk, that our world is more connected and more complex than ever before. And diverse and purposeful people taking action all around the globe, within organizations, as leaders, as teams, and as entrepreneurs, who identify and sustainably solve problems are going to be an absolute key. And if we agree on the diversity that's necessary there, why would we think that one single mindset can cut through all those complexities and bring us to successful implementation? So both as individuals and as teams, we need to embrace diverse mindsets, help us talk about them, and get into them successfully in order to really make a difference. Back to you, Katherin.
Thank you so much, Ruben, for giving us a very concrete and actionable start into the super complex topic. And thank you everybody who has joined us this morning and who went on a journey with us.
So I would say, let's get started for We Emerge Week. Let's jump in. As you know, We Emerge Week is not about a conferencing idea. It's about a new way of working together. And so I know I'm going to jump straight into my first roundtable. I'm so excited for it. And I can't wait for the solutions and ideas that come out.
Same here. So we're really looking forward to seeing you in a number of the roundtables throughout the week. And also, if you like, join us again tomorrow for the morning plenary, 9:15 CET. We'll have a conversation with entrepreneur Verena Pauster, and I'm already looking forward to it.
Let's have a great We Emerge Week. Take care, everybody. See you shortly.
Bye-bye.